It was a serene dawn, the kind that whispers promises of a peaceful day. The soft hues of the early morning sky blended gently with the earthy tones of the quiet village. Yet, on this particular day, the peace was an illusion. Beneath the calm surface, a storm was brewing, a storm of mystery and spiritual reckoning. Abdul Rahman, a man in his mid-40s, known for his unwavering dedication to his duties, set out early that morning. His task was somber but routine: to prepare a grave for Hafiza, a well-respected woman in the community who had passed away the previous night. Hafiza was no ordinary woman. She was a Quran memorizer, a teacher, a guide for many young souls. Her life had been a beacon of light, illuminating the path of faith and righteousness for the children she taught. Her passing was a loss felt deeply by all, especially the young ones who had learned to recite their first verses of the Quran under her patient guidance. As Abdul Rahman walked towards the cemetery, a strange feeling settled over him. It was as if the very air around him grew heavier with each step. His legs felt weighed down, not by fatigue, but by an invisible force that made his journey increasingly difficult. It was an unusual sensation, one he had never experienced in all his years of digging graves. The cemetery was bathed in the soft light of dawn when he arrived. It was a place he knew well, each corner a silent witness to countless stories of lives lived and lost. Yet today something was different. The stillness felt more profound, the silence more deafening. He began his work, each strike of his spade into the earth resounding louder than usual in the quiet morning. But as the spade hit the ground, he noticed something peculiar. The soil was harder than usual, resisting his efforts. Stones surfaced with each strike, making the task more arduous. Perhaps the spot is rocky, he thought, deciding to move to another location within the cemetery. But no matter where he dug, the earth seemed to resist him. The weight on his heart grew heavier, an unspoken dread seeping into his bones. The community began to gather as the news of Hafiza's passing spread. People came in droves, their faces reflecting the sorrow and respect they felt for the departed soul. The children, her beloved students, arrived in large numbers, their young faces streaked with tears. They recited the Shaida, their voices trembling with emotion. For them, Hafiza was more than a teacher. She was a maternal figure, a source of comfort and wisdom. As Abdul Rahman continued his task, he couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Suddenly, the unimaginable happened. With a final strike of his spade, the ground gave way, revealing a horrifying sight, a grave filled with writhing snakes and scorpions. The creatures moved as if disturbed from a deep slumber, their presence a stark contrast to the peaceful image of the cemetery. Panic erupted among the gathered crowd. Screams filled the air as people recoiled in fear. The children clung to their parents, their eyes wide with terror. The once serene morning had turned into a scene from a nightmare. The discovery of the snakes and scorpions sent shockwaves through the community. Questions buzzed like restless bees. Why would such creatures infest the grave of a pious woman? What could this possibly mean? The answers seemed as elusive as the peace they sought in that moment. The elders of the village exchanged worried glances. They had never encountered anything like this before. The grave, meant to be a final resting place, had turned into a scene of horror. The mystery deepened as I recalled Hafiza's life. A life dedicated to faith and teaching, a life seemingly free from sin or wrongdoing. In their confusion and fear, the villagers turned to Alam, the respected scholar of their community. Alam was known for his wisdom and his deep connection to the spiritual world. If anyone could make sense of this bewildering situation, it was him. Alam arrived at the cemetery, his presence bringing a sense of calm amidst the chaos. His eyes, though filled with concern, radiated a quiet confidence. He observed the scene, taking in the frightened faces and the grave that refused to offer peace. Alam approached Abdul Rahman, who was visibly shaken. The grave digger recounted his experience, his voice trembling as he described the resistance of the earth and the horrifying discovery. With a solemn nod, Alim began to pray. His voice, though soft, carried a weight that silenced the crowd. He asked for divine guidance, seeking answers from the one who knows all. The air grew heavy with anticipation as the community waited, hoping for a revelation that would ease their troubled hearts. As Alim continued his prayers, the villagers reflected on their own lives. The sight of the grave, filled with snakes and scorpions, was a stark reminder of the unknown that lies beyond this life. It was a moment of collective introspection, a reminder of the importance of living a life of righteousness and respect, especially towards one's parents and elders. The story of Hafiza was not just about her life or her death. It was about the lessons she left behind. The villagers, young and old, found themselves questioning their own actions, their own relationships with their loved ones. The mysterious events surrounding Hafiza's grave had touched something deep within them, stirring emotions they hadn't felt in years. The story of Hafiza and the grave filled with snakes and scorpions is more than a tale of mystery. It's a lesson in humility, respect, and the profound impact of our actions on the world beyond. As Alim sought answers, the community stood united in their quest for understanding, their hearts open to the lessons this strange and sorrowful day had to offer. In the end, the grave, the snakes, and the scorpions remained a reminder of the complexities of life and death, of the seen and the unseen. For the villagers, the story of Hafiza became a part of their collective memory, a story to be shared and reflected upon for generations to come. The days following Hafiza's burial were marked by an eerie stillness in the village. The strange events at her grave had left the community in a state of quiet reflection and unease. But for some, the story didn't end at the cemetery. It continued in their dreams, pulling them deeper into a world of mystery and revelation. Rashid, a young man known for his curiosity and devotion, was one of Hafiza's former students. His nights, once filled with peaceful slumber, became restless. Each time he closed his eyes, he found himself transported to the cemetery, standing before Hafiza's grave. The scene replayed in vivid detail, the snakes, the scorpions, and the cries of the villagers. In the first dream, Rashid stood alone in the cemetery. The grave was open, but this time the snakes and scorpions seemed less menacing. Instead, they formed a pattern, as if they were spelling out a message. The air around him was thick with a sense of urgency, a feeling that he was being called to understand something crucial. He awoke with a start, his heart pounding. The dream felt more real than any he had experienced before. Rashid couldn't shake the feeling that there was a message he needed to decipher, a message from Hafiza herself. The following night, Rashid dreamed again. This time he saw Hafiza, her face serene yet filled with a profound sadness. She stood at the edge of the village, watching as the children she once taught played in the fields. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Yet, Rashid understood her words as if they were etched into his mind. Teach them love and respect. They must honor their parents. When he awoke, Rashid felt a deep sense of responsibility. The message was clear, and it resonated with the teachings he had heard from Hafiza countless times during his childhood. He knew he had to share this message with the community, to remind them of the importance of love and respect, especially towards their elders. That on the third night, the dream took a different turn. Rashid found himself back at the grave, but this time Hafiza was beside him. She held out a book, the Quran, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and urgency. She pointed to a specific verse, one that spoke of the afterlife and the consequences of one's actions in this world. Remind them, she whispered, her voice carrying the weight of the wisdom she had imparted in life. The afterlife is real, and our deeds in this world echo beyond. Rashid woke up with a sense of purpose. The dreams were not mere figments of his imagination. They were a call to action. He felt chosen, tasked with carrying forward Hafiza's legacy. Rashid shared his dreams with Alim and the elders of the village. Together, they decided to hold a gathering, inviting everyone to come and reflect on the recent events and the messages Rashid had received. It was a time for healing, for understanding, and for recommitting to the values that Hafiza had so dearly upheld. The villagers gathered in the community hall, their faces reflecting a mixture of curiosity and reverence. Rashid, standing before them, recounted his dreams with a voice steady yet filled with emotion. As he spoke of Hafiza's messages about love, respect, and the reality of the afterlife, the room grew silent, each person lost in their thoughts. Alam followed with a sermon, weaving together the lessons from Rashid's dreams with the teachings of the Quran. He spoke of the importance of honoring one's parents, of living a life of righteousness, and of the unseen consequences of one's actions. His words, filled with wisdom and compassion, touched the hearts of everyone present. In the days and weeks that followed, a change was evident in the village. The children, once playful and carefree, showed a newfound respect for their elders. The adults, too, began to reflect more on their actions, seeking to live in a way that honored the teachings of their faith. Rashid continued to dream, but now his dreams were filled with peace. Hafiza's presence, once a source of mystery, became a comforting guide. He knew that her spirit watched over the village, guiding them towards a path of righteousness. The story of Hafiza, her mysterious grave, and the dreams that followed became a cornerstone of the village's history, a reminder of the thin veil between this world and the next, and of the enduring impact one life can have on many. For Rashid and the villagers, Hafiza's legacy lived on in their hearts and actions, a beacon of light guiding them through the complexities of life. Her teachings of love, respect, and the importance of faith became the foundation upon which they built their lives, ensuring that her memory would never fade.